All right. Good morning, everyone. Frank, I'm seeing you and Mr. Bales on, but I don't know if we have a quorum quite yet. Is Rory? I know Leslie is going to be traveling right now. She wasn't able to make it. Do you know? Have we heard anything from Rory this morning, or Mr. Cleveland? Here.
Joy, I have not seen Steve Cleveland, nor have I talked to him recently. But I am here, and I think I now have my computer working. I think. Did you hear me?
Yes, sorry about that. I heard you. I'm seeing just you
Joy.
and oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Maybe you can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm seeing just you and Mr. Bales on, though. So as far as I know, we don't have a quorum quite yet.
Okay, are you able, is he able to hear and be heard?
I'm sorry.
I hear you, Chairman, loud and clear.
Okay, so then we know we really do have two of us. I use a laptop for this kind of meeting because my desktop doesn't have a camera, so it's always interesting.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll wait just a few more minutes. I'll see if I can get a hold of Rory, and we'll see what we can figure out. Sorry about that. Give us a moment.
We can do nothing, of course, without a quorum. Although I don't know what your attorney said, we can do information items at the city,
we can
but I don't know
do
what the state.
Yeah, we can do kind of general informational items, but we wouldn't be able to do any votes or anything like that. My only concern there would be that we're on a pretty tight.
Without a quorum.
Yeah, our really kind of urgent item, at least from my perspective, is the withdrawal fees, because we do have a October 1st statutory deadline for that. And I guess probably Rebecca's item as well would be. All right, give us just one moment. I'm going to try to give Rory a call here.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Give us just a few more minutes. I did get a hold of Mr. Van Pocky, and he'll be joining us in just a few minutes here.
Great.
All right, Mr. Chair. Oh, did Mr. Fairbanks walk away maybe?
Yes, I'm here.
Did we lose a member? There we are. Mr. Chair, it looks like we have a quorum. I believe Rory is online. So we have Mr. Van Pocky and Mr. Bales for 3 members.
Okay, and I will, should I start or should we wait for the other members or should I go ahead and start?
I think you can go ahead and start.
Do the order?
Sorry, you cut out for a moment there.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. Does that make sense?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm calling this meeting of the Phoenix AMA Groundwater Users Advisory Council to order. Today is September 21st, 2023, and the time is 10:10 a.m. This meeting is a virtual meeting held online. I am Frank Fairbanks, Chair. Would each of the members present in attendance online please introduce themselves?
Good morning, Stephen Bales here.
Good
Thank
morning.
you, Steve.
Go on. Good morning, Frank and the board. Rory Van Pocky here.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there, we do have a quorum. Would the ADWR staff members who will participate please introduce themselves?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Natalie Mast. I am the Active Management Area Director here at ADWR. Joy?
I'm Joy Revolo-Vera. I'm the AMA Program Supervisor.
Ryan Melson, Conservation Program Supervisor.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Bernard, the manager of the Arizona Water Banking Authority.
Good morning, I'm Emily Young. I work for the Colorado River section on the environmental program.
I'm Melissa Sykes. I'm the Water Management Assistance Program Coordinator.
We also have here in the room Chris Friedman. He'll be presenting here later in the meeting.
Okay. If any of you we introduce them. If any audience members are interested in introducing themselves, please type your name and affiliation into the chat box, and the staff will read that to us. You don't need to unless you'd like to. I'll give you a second to do that. Staff, is there anyone that chose to type in their name and affiliation?
There's no introductions in the chat box.
Okay.
Just kidding, there's one, I'm sorry.
On my computer, I see a list of names on the side with at least the names of people that have signed in that we can all consult. With that,
Mr. Chair.
I would like to start the meeting with agenda item 2. Excuse me, go.
There are, right after you had said asked to do introductions, a couple have appeared. So we have Lisa Townsend and Pam Justice with Arizona Project WET, and Pam Esser and Kevin Sirwa, I'm sorry if I said your name incorrectly, from Esser Design.
Fine. I'm glad to hear you're here. We do see some other names, at least on my computer. I assume other people see other names that are listening. Okay, I would like to start the agenda with item 2, which is meeting logistics. And Joy Arevalo Vera is going to summarize that for us. Joy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Before we get started, I would like to go over some webinar logistics. Members of the public, we ask that you please keep your phone muted during the meeting. This helps reduce audio feedback. If during the meeting you have a question, please feel free to type your question in the chat box and they will be addressed after each agenda item. If you would like to speak to the council, the call to the public will be the time to do so. Please indicate in the chat that you would like to speak and we will unmute your phone. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted to ADWR's website and YouTube page once the recording is generated. Finally, if you have any technical difficulties, please contact the number on the screen. Presenters, please ask for the next slide when you're presenting your agenda item, and that is all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I might suggest that having participated in a number of these meetings, if people would mute their speakers if they are not speaking, that it sometimes enhances sound quality and prevents some of the sound glitches we've been hearing. So if it's not your turn to speak or you don't have anything to say, please mute your speaker and we may get a little better sound quality. With that, let's move to agenda item 3, Colorado River update, and Emily is going to make the presentation. Emily?
Thank you, Chair and Council. We'll go ahead and jump right into our first slide. First, we'll start with an overall system update. For the upper basin reservoirs, we have Navajo at 72%, Mora Point at 94%, Blue Mesa at 83%, Lending Gorge at 90%, Fontenelle at 91%, and Lake Powell at 38% of storage capacity, which equals out to reservoir elevation of 3,574 feet. Most importantly for Arizona, we have Lake Mead at 34% of storage, and that equals 1,066 feet of elevation. Total system storage is currently 44% full. That's 10% more than this time last year. The total storage is 25.62 million acre feet, which compared to 19.85 that we saw this time last year as well. Next slide, please. Now we'll go into a review of past water years in the 2024 forecast. 2023 was a good year in terms of water. Snowpack peaked at 161% of the seasonal median on April 7th, translating to 10.62 million acre feet of inflows to Powell for runoff. Of the total water year inflows are on track to hit about 13.6 million acre feet, which is about 142% of normal. This is not quite a 2011 experience, but more than what we saw in 2019. Likewise, intervening flows between the dams have been above normal for much of the year, well above the 5-year average tracked by reclamation. Tributary inflows below Mead were also improved this year, with both Alamo Dam in the Bill Williams and Canaan Rock in the Gila River releasing water. The Gila River actually had water flowing into the Colorado River, which doesn't happen often. It's only happened twice in the last 20 years, with the last happening in 2010. As for 2024, the September forecast ranged from 6 million acre feet to 17.6 million acre feet, with the most probable forecast of 10 million acre feet. There is still a considerable amount of uncertainty in these forecasts, as there's very little information to drive them.
Emily, we do not have great sound quality today.
What's that microphone? Is that better, Frank? Maybe Emily can.
Emily, we don't have great sound.
Is this
we
better?
don't have great sound quality. So if you could make your presentation a little slower. I know we have a lot to do. But very rapidly. At least
let me know if this sound, is this better? Okay. I'll go back a little bit. So for the 2024 September forecast, We currently have a range of 6 million acre feet to 17.6 million acre feet. The most probable forecast is currently 10 million acre feet, so that is going to be that darker green bar there. We still don't have a ton of information to drive these forecasts, though, currently. So while it's not impossible to reach that maximum that you see there in the dark blue, it's likely not possible given the recent drought conditions that we've seen as of late. Is that sounding better, Chairman? Okay, we'll go to the next slide then. As for the forecast for reservoir elevations, here we have the Lake Powell end-of-month elevations from Reclamation's August 24-month study and 2-year probabilistic projections. The max probable is in blue, the most probable is in green, and the minimum probable scenario is in red. The end of calendar year 2023 projections in Powell are 3,574 feet under the most probable scenario and 3,569 feet under the probable minimum scenario. The end of calendar year 2024 projections in Powell are about 3,589 feet under the most probable scenario and 3,551 feet under the probable minimum scenario. Under these projections, Powell is set to release 8.8 million acre feet for 2023. These projections are based on the current operating regime and water use. These assumptions may change depending on discussions between the states and actions by Reclamation, as well as the outcome of the SEIS. Releases are projected to be 7.48 million acre feet for water year 2024, based on the August 2023 minimum, most, and max probable. Now we can go to our next slide. And now we're looking at the Lake Mead end of month elevation projections. The end of calendar year projections for Lake Mead are 1,065 feet for the 2023 most and probable minimum scenarios. For 2024, we are looking at Tier 1 reductions for Arizona under the most probable scenario. That would mean 512,000 acre feet in reductions to Arizona. Of course, that assumes no additional reductions that may materialize from the new SEIS. End of calendar year projections in need for 2024 are about 1,057 feet under the most probable scenario and 1,048 feet under the probable minimum scenario. And then I just want to point out that red line, which is the minimum probable scenario, that there is a potential to drop into a Tier 2A by April 2025. Just to keep in mind, there is still a certain amount of, there's still a decent amount of uncertainty in a lot of these forecasts. Keep in mind for planning purposes. We can go to the next slide. Now for a quick update on the SEIS process. Reclamation is continuing to work on the supplemental EIS to the 2007 interim guidelines and the drought contingency plan after the initial draft was withdrawn in May. The new draft will model the lower basin proposal and is anticipated to be released sometime in October. This includes conservation activities funded by the Inflation Reduction Act under the Lower Colorado Conservation Program. Lower basin participants include both on and off-river users. In Arizona, this includes CAP contractors, tribal users on and off-river, irrigators along the main stem, and in the Yuma area and upstream. This SEIS will provide coverage for the remaining interim period. Next slide, please. For the post-2026 process, ADWR signed 2 scoping comment letters, which were submitted to the Bureau of Reclamation on August 15th. ADWR submitted a letter with the 6 other basin states principles establishing the unique interests they have in the management of the river and the need for greater collaboration to create sustainable solutions, as well as greater collaboration with Mexico. The department also submitted its own letter reiterating its stance on the equitable share of the burden it required to stabilize the Colorado River system. Another key takeaway of the ADWR letter is if a conservation or storage framework were to be implemented for the entire system, Arizona will require an interstate framework. The final key point of the ADWR letter is an update to the water user practices in order to minimize waste throughout the basin. Most of the letters are currently uploaded to Reclamation's website, and ours is also available on the department's website. And next slide. And are there any questions today?
Are there any questions or comments by members of the GUAC committee?
Would the presenter go back one slide, please?
Steve, Rory?
Can you tell me what? Oh, the last bullet point, post 2026 GLS. What's a GLS?
GLS is just short for guidelines.
Guidelines. Can you go back one more slide then? Okay, what's the EIS?
That is an environmental impact statement. So that is a formal, yes, and that is a formal NEPA process. So different alternatives are provided so it's a federal action and it undergoes an analysis process.
Good, thank you. I don't operate in your world and all these acronyms, so I'm sorry to have to ask, but it's
okay, there's a lot of
hard
them.
to recall them. Thank you.
Have any comments? Thank you.
Okay, I had no comment. It was an excellent report, and it's
Your entry is not valid.
I'm getting a phone call from Melissa Sykes telling me how I can get better audio at the same time I'm talking to you. This is a sad report, but it is a significantly better sad report than the last sad report we had. So it's good to see that the water levels have increased and that they are better than in the past, although clearly we are not out of the woods. So thank you very much for your report, Emily.
Mr. Chair, it looks like you're speaking, but I think you're muted.
Yes. I'm getting a call from you all saying if I go to the website, I can get better sound. And it's a little hard to chair the meeting and respond to the website.
Yep, sorry about that.
Respond to the telephone call. My comment was, is that it is a better sad or less sad report than we got just a few months ago. So thank you very much. It's very good. It's important information, and it shows that there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's good to see a little bit of trend on the river. Although clearly there's much work that needs to be done and many problems to be solved. Did you all hear that?
Yes, thank you. Muted again.
Frank, you're on mute.
Rebecca?
Oh, we can hear you now. Oh, no, there we go. Sorry about that. Oh, nope, you're muted again. Sorry about that, Mr. Fairbanks. You appear to be unmuted now.
My button on the screen.
Would you like us to go on to agenda item number 4?
Please. Can you hear me?
All right.
Chair Fairbanks, members of the council.
Go ahead.
According to statutes, the Water Banking Authority Commission must adopt a plan of operation by January 1st, 2024. This plan must feature monies available from the Water Banking Fund, the obligations of the Water Banking Authority, and the volume of water the bank is planning on storing and purchasing. Comments and questions from the council and the public today will be summarized in the final plan of operation. This is a preliminary plan of operation. So there are different ways in which we can develop water. Unfortunately, there will be no excess CAP water available to the Water Banking Authority in 2024. This means we won't be able to store water. However, we can achieve our goals through other means. We could purchase long-term storage credits, and we also intend to develop ICS firming credits, intentionally created surplus firming credits that is pursuant to our agreement, our IGA, with the Gila River Indian community, with the community. Next, please. So here you can see our different funding sources for 2024. So I will go through each of them. Starting with withdrawal fees collected in the Phoenix AMA, we intend to spend $1.7 million to develop 5,638 intentionally created surplus firming credits. And to do so, we'll buy water at a rate of $276 per acre foot. That is the price listed in the IGA that we have with the community for 2024. And the volume you see in the table includes a 10% loss factor. Now, with withdrawal fees collected in the Tucson AMA, we could spend $764,000 to purchase 2,120 long-term storage credits. That is assuming a purchase rate of $360 per acre foot in 2024. Now, moving on to water storage tax, the amount you see in the table is carryover from funds that the CAWCD Board of Directors reserved for purchases in 2021 and 2022. So we still have these monies. And in the Phoenix AMA, we could purchase 9,260 long-term storage credits, assuming a purchase rate of $359 per acre foot. And in the Tucson AMA, we could spend $7.8 million to purchase 21,740 long-term storage credits. And again, that is at the purchase rate of $360 per acre foot. So overall, we're looking at spending $13.6 million to develop in total 38,758 credits. There's something I wanted to mention when looking at withdrawal fees. The estimated funds in the table for withdrawal fees, they do not include the $200,000 that the legislature authorized to be used to support the Arizona Navigable Stream Adjudication Commission, NSAC, for fiscal year 2024. So that money isn't included in the table. Next. So here's firming for next year. According to recent estimates from CAWCD, a Tier 1 shortage condition will impact the CAP NIA pool in 2024. this will trigger an obligation the bank has for the community. And so the obligation volume is 6,153 acre-feet. And so in the table, you can see the firming proposal that was developed between the bank and the community. And so we agreed to use firming credits next year. So this is water that was pre-delivered on reservation. So essentially, we will extinguish 6,153 firming credits from our account. And so the community will be firm next year. Regarding CAPM&I firming, so there are no firming required for them because they will not be impacted by shortages, and they won't be firming for on-river contractors either. And we have not received a request from Southern Nevada Water Authority to create intentionally created unused apportionment in 2024, so there will not be recovery for Nevada next year. Next, please. So this is my last slide. And in the first column, you can see our different objectives and the location of our credits. And in the second column, you see estimated credits that we'll have at the end of this year, so to be spent in 2024. And so as I mentioned, if you look at tribal settlement obligations, we will use a little over 6,000 firming credits for the community. And I wanted to point out credit exchanges that may happen in 2024. So looking kind of in the second part of the table under groundwater management, so withdrawal fees. In 2022, cities of Avondale, Chandler, Goodyear, Peoria, Phoenix, Scottsdale, as well as EPCOR, agreed to store water in the Pinal AMA. And the bank agreed to exchange these credits for credits that we have in the Phoenix AMA. And we're going to do something similar in the Tucson AMA as well. And so these entities will be given credits in 2023. And as soon as they request the exchange, we will trade credits. So water isn't physically moving, it's just the ownership of long-term storage credits that is going to change. And that was an agreement made under the drought contingency plan. And next, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take comments, questions you may have today.
This is Rory. I had a question. Where are the who you're purchasing long-term credits from, and where are they located at? Where's location of them? Thank you.
Chair Fairbanks, members of the council. So if we could go back 2 slides. No, the next one. Yes, this one. So here you see the funds we have here are estimated. So this is, these are estimates. And actually, if you look at the last column, it's estimated, volume of credits. We could purchase credits next year. Currently, we do not have an agreement to purchase long-term storage credits in 2024. That doesn't mean that we will not be able to purchase credits, but there's no, we don't have agreements to do so. And in terms of the location, with, withdrawal fees collected in the Phoenix AMA, I mean, we'll spend that money on ICS firming credits, so these are not long-term storage credits, but we have an agreement with the community to purchase these credits. And with water storage tax funds in the Phoenix AMA, for example, if we find someone who's willing to sell us credits, then we'll have to spend that money for credits located in the Phoenix active management area. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and is the price that you were discussing, is that an estimate or that you think you'll have to spend, or is that because that seems like a good price to me with my history of long-term storage credits and what's happening in that world. Thank you.
Chair Fairbanks, members of the council, we have historically based our price on the cost of delivery and storage of CAP water. So that's how we based our price for next year. We could decide to spend more per acre foot. But right now, if we had to, if we had water to store in 2024, that is how much it would cost to create one credit. So in the Phoenix AMA, it would be $359 per acre foot.
Okay, thank you so much.
Will you unmute, Fred?
You're unmuted, Mr. Fairbanks. Or...
Hello? Hello. This is the chair. Can you hear me there?
We can, yes.
Okay. Hearing no further questions on the ground fee on the Water Banking Authority. Let's move to agenda item 5, groundwater fee recommendation and the WMAP update. Melissa will present on the WMAP program, and then the council will discuss the 2004 withdrawal fee recommendation and make a recommendation to the ADWR director. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, council members and members of the public. I'll be going over the Water Management Assistance Program fund balance and the status of the DCP groundwater conservation grants. The current balance is $709,336. Of that, $392,396 is committed, leaving a balance of $316,940. We expect to collect about $206,000 next year. If Arizona Project Wet is requesting renewal of $75,000 for 1 year, and the Water Conservation Management Program is requesting renewal of $216,000 for 2 years. This would leave $25,940 in the WMAP fund. Projects that are currently funded with the WMAP funds are the Smartscape Professional Landscape Training Program, the Water Conservation Management Program, the Residential Water Use Phase 2 project, Arizona Project Wet, and the Town of Gilbert's rebate program. The DCP Legal Protection Project also receives $32,355 in WMAP funding. Next, I will give you an update on the groundwater conservation grant. The ESSER design and Arizona Project Wet Collaborative Video Series project was completed, as well as Gary Woodard's water efficiency audits for HOA common areas and other irrigation customers. They will present their project accomplishments today. All other projects are ongoing. Before we move on to the presentations, Natalie and Matt will start the withdrawal fee discussion, but before that, are there any questions regarding the WMAP funds or the groundwater conservation project?
All right, seeing no questions. Chairman Fairbanks, members of the council, perfect, thank you. We are asking the council today to vote to recommend withdrawal fees for the 2024 calendar year. You can see on the screen a little bit of the framework there. Last year's total withdrawal fee was $3.25. And we would like for the council to recommend to the ADWR director what those withdrawal fees should be for 2024. I will say that I have an email here from council member Leslie Myers. She was not able to be here today, so I'm happy to read that to the council whenever that would be appropriate. But if the council would like to discuss, staff can also be available for any questions.
So looking at this chart that's on my screen, I presume it's on other people's, and you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. The committee has nothing to say about the water bank fee, correct? That's set by statute?
That's correct, yes.
And in the administration and enforcement, that's set by the department, and the committee has no input to that, although I think we've made comments on in the past years. Am I correct in that?
So for the administration and enforcement fee, you can make a recommendation about that portion. For the last number of years, that has been set at 50 cents, but the range that is allowable in statute for that line item is between 50 cents and $1.
Okay. I'm sorry, but almost everything you just said on the administration enforcement was lost to me. Is the department, so we do make a recommendation on administration enforcement. Is there a request or a suggestion or a programmatic option which the department wishes the committee to consider?
No, not at this time.
The 2024, not at this time. So we could make a recommendation on the 50 cents versus $1. But there's nothing that's been brought forward to the department as far as a change to that.
That's correct.
So one might assume that the 50 cents is satisfactory. And that less than the 50 cents would cause programmatic cuts.
For the statutory structure there is that 50 cents is the minimum for that line item. So you would not be able to go less than 50 cents for that.
So the committee cannot reduce it. The committee could increase it. But there's no request from the department. So what the committee really needs to concentrate or its recommendations most focused on is the WMAP portion.
That's correct.
And that has been 25 cents for a number of years, but that could be up to $2. And it is to fund programs that would result in either water being left in the ground or supplements to water being put underground. In other words, all programs should have some impact on underground storage, direct or indirect.
Yeah.
If if we are to stay at the 25 cents, are we able to continue all of the programs that we've already approved?
If we maintain the 25-cent withdrawal or WMAP fee, we will run out of funding by next year.
Oh, maybe you didn't catch that, Mr. Fairbanks. I'll just repeat what Melissa said. At the 25-cent level, there would, by next year, there would not be enough funding to continue the existing approvals.
What is the general amount of decline or reduction that would be necessary? Ballpark. Has anybody looked at that?
Can you repeat that, Mr. Chair? I didn't quite catch that.
If we left it at the 25 cents, you have said, and I hear you, I have not been able to hear Melissa, but I hear you. If the committee, and of course the committee makes a recommendation and it's up to the director actually to approve or disapprove the fee, if the fee is left at 25 cents, you've said that there would not be sufficient funds to continue all of the programs that are this year. And the question is, what's the approximate amount of reduction that would be necessary, ballpark, if it stayed at 25 cents?
So do you want to go back to the slide that Melissa had? No, not this one. It was, oh, were there, sorry, I thought you had one with the remaining balance if everything was encumbered. Okay. So at the end of this year, there will be a balance of just under $26,000. If the withdrawal fee stays at 25 cents for 2024, we are projecting a deficit of about $7,500.
Okay. So that's what, 3 or 4% of the program?
Did I read that right? Okay.
Mr. Chair, is there any chance the presenter could bring up I think it's page 4 in the packet. Isn't that what shows us the balance projections?
Sure. Do you have that available, Joy?
I have to open it up.
Okay. Give us just one moment. We'll be able to pull that up. While we're waiting, Mr. Fairbanks, I do have an email from Leslie Myers, member Myers. While we're waiting, if now would be an appropriate time for me to read that email, I'd be happy to provide her comments.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So Leslie, unfortunately, was traveling right now. She was disappointed that she wasn't able to make the meeting. Her comments on the Water Management Assistance Program, I'll just read exactly what her email says here. It says, I have witnessed the positive impact of the Project WET and SmartScape programs. My children participated in Project WET water festivals, when they were in elementary school, and they still hold on to their water conservation ethic today. These programs touch individuals and have a tremendous impact on the participants. I think it's important to continue to fund them. I understand that increasing withdrawal fees is a controversial topic. I'd like to hear what our ag representatives on the GUAC think. I believe that balancing the benefits of these programs with a very modest withdrawal fee increase is certainly worthy of discussion. And again, that was from Councilmember Leslie Myers.
Okay. And before we act on this item, and we're just in the discussion phase, we can have discussion now prior to taking action. Are there any people that wish to make comments before action is taken that we need to listen to before any motion would proceed?
Mr. Chair, if the council members don't have any comments, or you can choose if you want council members to discuss first, but we do have a comment in the chat from Warren Tenney of AMWA saying that he'd like to address the council.
Would it be more appropriate to have that comment first or after discussion let's go ahead with the comments from the public before there's discussion by the committee.
Okay.
Can we
Warren,
do that? Can we ask Mr. Tenney to speak?
Sure. Warren, if you can unmute yourself, you can go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Warren Tenney, the Executive Director for the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association. Chairman Fairbanks and members of the council, I appreciate this opportunity just to reiterate our thoughts that we had expressed in the letter that we had sent to you. We would strongly encourage you to recommend an increase to the withdrawal fee to ensure that the Water Management Assistance Program is adequately funded. As you can see on the slide that staff has put up, we're very concerned that there will not be enough funds as early as next year to be able to support important conservation programs that are occurring right now, as well as preventing the opportunity of new conservation initiatives. As Leslie Myers noted in her email, Project WET, Smartscape are both very effective programs, as well as the Water Management Assistance, as well as the agricultural focused water conservation management program. All of those programs those existing programs have been going on for a number of years. They make a difference. They do help change and enforce a conservation culture here in the Phoenix area. And that is very important that we continue that, especially considering that groundwater will continue to have even more pressure put on it. We will be seeing less Colorado River water in our future. The recently released Phoenix AMA groundwater model highlights the amount of unreplenished groundwater pumping that is occurring here in central Arizona. And so we feel it's very important that we bolster our efforts to be able to protect groundwater in this AMA by guaranteeing the effectiveness and the continued funding of the Water Management Assistance Program. So again, we strongly encourage that you recommend an increase, even if it's a modest one, to ensure important conservation efforts can continue. And I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Mr. Tenney, are there any questions by the committee of Mr. Tenney? Hearing none. Are there other members of the public that are present that would like to speak or who have asked to speak?
Mr. Chair, I have just a note in the chat from Gary Woodard. Gary says the WMAP fee is being eroded by inflation, a 23% decrease since 2018. Increasing it to just 32 cents would be needed just to get back to the 2018 level.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any further input from the public? Make sure we have the process correct. Well, then we'll close that comment and before at some point we'll need a motion from one of the participants in the committee members. But before any motions, are there comments either from Steve or Rory about this topic?
Hi, Frank.
Questions,
I have
comments?
just a quick thing. What would be the amount to fund the program for 2024? What percent would they have to go up, or dollar amount are we talking about? Thank you.
In the WMAP packet that was provided to the members, I have projections for a number of different fee amounts. So if we went up just 5 cents to 30 cents per acre foot for the WMAP fee, then we would see a positive increase in the WMAP balance. If we went up to 35, we have even more left in the fund. You know, it would be 30 cents would be the minimum, I would say, according to my projections.
Okay, thank you very much. And another question,
I
I
think-
know you have this all, how do we, it looks like revenue's been flat for over the last, since 18, basically, little up and down. But how do we watch our cost, you know, or how we distribute this, the money and stuff like that to make sure it's going to the proper, where we're getting more bang for our dollar, I guess I'm trying to say. Thank you.
So the projects that are suggested for funding do come through the Groundwater Users Advisory Council, so you council members would be the ones to decide where you would recommend this funding would go, and then ultimately the director would make that decision. But it would be up to the council members to review the information that they are given for the WMAP programs and decide if they would like to fund those programs or not.
Okay,
The other thing I might add, oh, sorry, Rory. The other thing I might add to that is that the projects are required to submit deliverables to the department on a certain cadence depending on their contract. And those deliverables are required, their funding is contingent on those deliverables. They are required to submit those deliverables in order to receive their funding.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, and I think, you know, following this item, we have some discussions of projects that have been completed that are no longer need funding, but also projects that are underway that have progress reports on the deliverables. But that's something we shouldn't discuss here. But the committee, the GUAC, recommends to the director the funding of programs, and then the director, I think, generally has had the practice. He actually has the authority to approve them or not, but he generally has taken our advice very seriously in that process. So while they're not directly approved by us, the fact is that if they're going to be funded, they have gone through and have gotten, in every case I can remember, an approval recommendation by Steve, Rory, further comments?
Yes, Frank.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Beos. I wanted to make a comment. I thought that Leslie's email was well written, and I take all of her points very well. Some of these projects, not all of them are solid projects that we've got to look at in the last few years that I've been on here. I think Mr. Van Hoeke brought up a good point about their dollar amounts and are we getting the best bang for our buck. That's something we don't usually get to probe into too much, but also has been brought up the inflation and what we've faced as a nation the last year and a half or so has been difficult. I'm here representing the ag community. We've faced price inflation tremendously. I know I don't have to remind you, but agriculturalists, farmers, we are price takers for the commodities we sell, not price makers. And everything that we are buying to put in to produce our crops right now has gone up much more than what the stated inflation rate has been by the Federal Reserve. Fuel costs, which go directly into water costs, whether it's through natural gas or electricity or diesel, have been astronomical right now. And in some of our areas and districts and farms, we can't even buy water at any price. So my community, of course, is not excited about any type of new tax or raise on any type of fee. I look at this chart that staff has presented, and what I'm the most considerate of and what I could support is the minimal amount to take us out of red and keep us in the black. And it looks to me like the increase from 25 cents to 30 cents would keep us in the black if we continue on the collections as expected. And that would be the minimal, that would be the largest amount that I would be willing to support today. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me, before we take a motion, and a motion would need to come from Steve or Rory, let me state my position, which is that this is a very important topic that not only is important to people in the department and people that follow water, but also something in the community. And I think throughout Arizona, in many years, over many years, we've been leaders in finding ways to manage our groundwater well. And today we find ourselves in a position in which our groundwater is under more pressure than it's ever been in. And I think it's important that the department, but also the GUAC, be in a position to fund projects that can relieve pressure on or reduce the pressure on groundwater withdrawal. We need to play the long game here. We need to work long term to find a way to be able to use that water as needed over a long period of time. And I think, generally speaking, the programs that we've done through the grants have helped all parties to find ways to conserve groundwater. The programs that are financed through the fund include programs that help all elements of society. A lot of the money has gone into providing agricultural water saving programs. It's gone into providing programs that save water while you're focused on programs that help citizens to save water. And likewise, the fee is paid heavily by ag, but it's also heavily paid for by industrial and the cities. So I think both the fee and the GMAP program, or the fee is a fee that we all pay into. It's a fee that we all receive some benefit from. And in the long term, we need to look at this as a long-term issue. How can we conserve and maintain the availability of our groundwater into the future? So I, for many years, have supported an appropriate increase. There's also need to be careful in approving grants to make sure that they deliver really deliver in terms of conserving groundwater, and that we need to be careful about funding programs that don't have a real impact. With that, I'd look forward to a motion from either of the committee members. A motion would be a recommendation to the director on the
Could I ask you,
for next year.
Chairman Frank, could I just ask one question? What is the percentage of what the industrial pays versus and what ag pays in this program? Or if Natalie could answer that question for me.
Yeah, they would need to answer that question.
I don't have that information in front of me. I'm not sure of the total percentages for each category of user. I apologize for that.
Thank you. I fully
do you have an approximate?
Give me one moment here. Sorry, I'm pulling up some data here. I'm not going to be able to speak specifically to the withdrawal fees. One moment while this loads. Oh goodness, and of course my internet is moving slowly right now. What I will be able to speak to once my information actually loads here is the proportions of each sector with relation to groundwater pumping. And 74, sorry, give me one moment here. And so in the, whoops, nope, I'm not filtered to the Phoenix AMA. I apologize, give me one moment here. I'm trying to do this on the fly. So in the Phoenix AMA in 2021, there was approximately 294,000 acre-feet of groundwater pumped by municipal users, approximately 64,000 pumped by industrial users, and approximately 314 pumped by agricultural users. So maybe just trying to do math off the top of my head, we're looking at probably about 40% by municipal, 60% by agriculture, and the other 20-ish by industrial. Or 10, yeah, I probably did that math wrong in my head, but it's somewhere on that scale.
Thank you. I got one other question, Chairman. If we do the 30 cents, does that make sure that this program will be funded in 2024? They're not going to come short on that number, will they? Will it be sufficient?
So based on our projections, yes, that's correct. There is some variability in withdrawal fees from year to year, but if we, kind of based on our best guesses, our projections here, it looks like there would be enough of a buffer in that amount to kind of account for the typical variations we see in withdrawal fees from year to year.
Okay, thank you.
Is there
Chairman, I'll make a
discussion?
motion. I'll make a motion. We raise the WMAP fee, acre feet, by 5 cents, from 25 cents to 30 cents.
Is there a second?
Second that.
There's a motion and a second to increase the WMAP fee, withdrawal fee, from 25 cents to 30 cents. Any further discussion by the committee? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That's a 3-0 vote, unanimous vote. And so that's actually would be our recommendation to the director who actually makes the decision. With that item disposed of, let's move to item 6, which are project updates and funding request renewal. And by the way, I think that's a good solution. I think that's a good, fair solution. And I personally appreciate the commitment of the agricultural community to be part of the solution to the issues we need to deal with. Move to item 6, WMAP project update and funding renewal request for University of Arizona and the East Maricopa Natural Resource Conservation District. And Lisa Townsend will provide an update on the Arizona Project activities and a request for a contract renewal. And then Marty Hunt will present on the water conservation management activities and request for a contract renewal. Staff?
Good morning, Chairman Fairbanks and council members. Thank you so much for having us here today. And thank you very much for all of the kind things that you had to say about Arizona Project WET. I'm Lisa Townsend, APW's new director, and with me,
Pam Justice, and I think we've all met in the past.
Good to see you.
Everybody hear us okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
Just thought that was a lovely picture of water in the desert.
Yeah, thank you very much. Next slide, please. Arizona Project WET is we build water literate leaders, educators, professionals, and stewards. And really the key to conserving groundwater is understanding groundwater, understanding that there is a source when you turn on the tap. Although it is never seen and intermittently recharged, we put the steps together to make sure the connections are made. Next slide, please. So what we do is we engage students and teachers and community members to explore the water cycle here in Arizona and then gain fluency in that cycle by explaining it to friends, family, whoever they want to share those details with. Now, if you look at who we are and what we do as Arizona Project WET, in providing real world relevancy that makes learning engaging and interesting and fun, it really speaks to what we set out to do in last year's grant. Next slide. Like I said, we tell Arizona's water story and really make the connection between what is happening on the broader scale throughout the state, and then specifically what we're doing here in the Phoenix AMA.
Yep. As you know, we have been in existence for now over 25 years, and we have been educating students and teachers and the community during that period of time. And we think that the job that we do actually gets us up every morning and gets us to work because we love what we do and we really do feel like we're making a difference.
And as Arizona's water story evolves, so do we.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. Talking about deliverables, and you came to the right place because not only do we have the tasks that were part of last year's grant, we have some reporting to give you as far as who received information, how it was perceived, and what we are looking at going forward. So we were tasked with a teacher multi-day academy, 2-day academies that are grounded in STEM learning, and they talk specifically about the Phoenix AMA and how the teachers learn how to take the complex concept of groundwater and really make it authentic, relevant, and meaningful for their students. And as far as one-day workshops, well, Arizona Water Festivals are a fan favorite here in the Phoenix AMA, and we make sure that not only do teachers and students have a meaningful and fun time at the Water Festival, but it is also bracketed by relevant, applicable lessons before and after that event. And the good news is, because it's rooted in STEM and it speaks to Arizona's education standards, this is information that goes with them and concepts that are scaffolded throughout their matriculation.
And so the funding that we're asking for this portion, and the reason why we put the Water Festival workshops in here is because the teachers have to do, in order to bring their students to a 4th grade Water Festival, those teachers have to come to professional development workshop where they're modeled activities that they're expected to do in the classroom before they bring their students, and then the activities they're going to do after the Water Festival to embed that knowledge about 4 topics: water cycle, watershed and surface water, groundwater, and then water conservation technology. So those things are all covered in a learning unit that the teacher actually is a partner with us.
Right.
And we train those teachers in helping those students glean that really important content.
Next slide, please. So last year at SRP for our 5-day academy, we had 12 teachers, and that would impact roughly 1,270 students. Our CAP 2-day had 11 teachers who impact 1,255 students, and our ongoing Arizona Water Festival trainings, 163 teachers, and that's just new teachers learning the material. That is not existing knowledge that's present in the classrooms and in the community. So new teachers learning and delivering the material to 4,401 students was reached last year alone. And on the right, a couple of our teachers walking the talk, really learning hands-on real-world applications that they can then share with their students. Next slide, please. To graphs, you want to know what that difference is. Well, what they knew before the program and what the teachers walked away feeling like they had learned is in red. So our programs are successful.
Reassess or a self-assessment. So we ask them questions that are going to be covered in the workshop, and they answer what they think their knowledge is based on a Leidig scale of 1 to 10. And then when they complete at the end of the workshop, whether it's the 5-day or the 2-day or the 1-day, we ask them what their knowledge, what they understand now that we've imparted all that content. And so that blue is previous knowledge. The golden red color is what they feel they got from the workshop.
Next slide, please. Correct student outreach. And also, Melissa or somebody, you've asked us to talk about our program, which is very similar to asking grandparents to talk about their grandchildren. And I know there is a limited amount of time, so we will pick up the pace. So our water scene investigations programs, we delivered to 25 students in 2 classes, changing out aerators. And what we've discovered with this is, pun intended, we've reached pretty full saturation with single source technology. But there's still interest in the program and in conservation. So we'll get to what we have in store for that. For engineering design process, we reached 11 teachers, which impacted 1,255 students. Next slide, please. So we have classes that specifically address the groundwater system, and that program was delivered to 56 classes, impacting 1,491 students. Next slide, please. There was a visit to riparian areas at the Rio Salado, and that was utilized by 2 classes, impacting 37 students. Next slide, please. And as Pam had discussed, there are specific groundwater concepts that we bring to the surface, if you will, for our students. So not only can they envision what's happening below ground, they have an understanding that when there's precipitation, we are recharging the groundwater. When we turn on the faucet, we are utilizing groundwater. And so these are the concepts that not only are explained to the students, but then they manipulate themselves and can explain to each other and folks that aren't even in the room. So yeah, recharge, discharge, they get it, and they get their part of it.
And as you notice that we were in 50+ classrooms last year from 4th grade through high school. So it's a really popular program that we already have teachers booking for this school year.
Next slide, please. Knowledge flowing and taking into account some of the information that we just given you. We would like to continue teacher professional development. It's wide reaching. It is eagerly utilized. We've also been able to look at new models for PD, as well as supplement the learning with additional online resources. But that face-to-face explanation and checking for understanding and engagement is key for getting the teachers fired up about groundwater conservation. And if they're excited, it passes along to their students. Arizona Water Festivals, I believe we already have something like, how many?
30.
Yeah, 30 throughout the state. And a large majority of those in the Phoenix AMA that are already on the books. And we'd like to continue groundwater conservation education. So the programs that we had referenced that didn't have a large interest in last year, we have other plans for those. One of them is we want to renew and improve our WSI, our water scene investigation program, so that we aren't looking just at single source water reduction like an aerator. We really want to make sure that students can engage in this whodunit to figure out where our water wasters are, identify conservation practices that are relevant and applicable to school-age children, as well as recognize water waste potentially in others and in other locations. And we have gotten a lot of interest from municipalities in the Phoenix AMA about a rainwater harvesting program that was piloted and grant funded in the Tucson AMA. We would really like to reinvent, retool, remodel, and relaunch that so it has applicability in the broader Maricopa Canal region. And then
and it's not a capture rainwater in a cistern kind of a program. It's an actual designing landscape and utilizing passive irrigation in a school landscaping to help them understand how important it is and the types of plants to plant and where to plant them and rerouting that rain from their school into their landscaping.
Absolutely.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's a fun program.
And really looking at paved areas that are pooling and figuring out what we could plant there instead. And then we have a large request from teachers and libraries for groundwater models. And we have been lending them out. And we want them used, they're being used, and there's a little bit of refurbishment that needs to come with that. So this is a kind of a rough order of what that budget would look like. We are requesting $75,000 to continue water festivals, a portion, covering a portion of water festivals, groundwater presentations, to make sure that we have groundwater models ready to go for schools that request them. We want to continue supporting our teacher professional development. And then we want to reinvest. You had mentioned, how do we know we're getting bang for our buck? Well, we're looking at what's popular, what we're hearing in the community that is in demand, and we want to be able to invest in evolving and pivoting so we can really tell the story of Arizona water in 2024 relevance. Next slide, please. So again, thank you very much for your ongoing support. We would appreciate further consideration of $75,000 over a 12-month period. So thank you very much, Chairman Fairbanks, and
we'd love to answer any questions you guys might have.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Yes, Leslie, Pam, Steve Bales here. So post-COVID, has it recovered well for you?
It's been slow, but we're seeing improvement every year. Some of the programs, like we said, the WSI, we didn't see as many teachers wanting that in the classroom. Those groundwater presentations just flew off the shelf. We couldn't book them fast enough. So we're seeing certain programs that we're planning on revamping. We're seeing some more popular than others.
And as somebody who's new to the program, I've been here since mid-June, but I've been in experiential environmental education for 25 years now. One of the things that's really heartening is we are hearing teachers say, we want to know more about groundwater. We want to know about water conservation, and we want to know about it from you. So post-COVID, yes, we are getting a lot more interest, and it's also given us an opportunity to look at our best practices. We had a PD option for some people, and now what we're finding is professional development that has in-person and virtual options gets us a larger audience that where folks may have been a little more reticent to engage. They are much more eager, and I think post-COVID, experiential really is where it's at. As far as students, there's been enough distance learning. They want to get their hands dirty, or at least in this case, their hands wet. So yes, we are rebounding.
Great. Thanks for your comments.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Rory, any comments? Hearing
Sorry,
none.
I was having a hard time. Yeah, I think this program is really good, and I like the experiential aspect of this program where the students can literally get their hands wet, like they said. So I think that really is a great learning process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw, from my perspective, I think we need to keep our eyes increasingly on the bottom line. And this received, and this is a question for staff and also the program developers, but last year they received 75,000 funding, and they're proposed for 75,000. And based on the recommendation we just made, which program year does this fall into? 2023 or 2024? Let's be more. So this is 2024.
Well,
So-
it would cover.
This is what we're.
Oh, sorry. So for the projections and everything that we showed related to the withdrawal fees, those projections included an assumption that this program would be funded.
This program, part of the program's funding, correct?
I'm sorry, Mr. Fairbanks, I didn't catch the question.
The question is this in the funding that we just discussed a minute ago or 5 minutes ago?
Yes, it was captured under that.
Approved. Okay. And so I think obviously an excellent program. Obviously, it's doing a lot of good things. But I would urge two things for the future. Number one, this money is about preserving groundwater, so that I did hear you say that as you talked about the water situation in Arizona, you often talked about groundwater. And it's certainly true that anytime people don't use unnecessary water, that saves groundwater. But we had another element front and center, funded from this very tight source. And while it's always good to get your hands in the water, I kind of wonder about one or two busloads of kids going out to the swamp out there and looking at it and what the feedback is. But if that works good for you, it works good for me. I think to the extent that we reach more people and get more people, mainly in the cities, but also in rural communities, to be careful about water their use, then this money is very well spent. And I think historically, it's been a very well spent program. Does staff have anything else to offer?
Nope, not at this time.
Do you want us to take both this and the natural resources together in a minute? Or do you want to deal with them one at a time?
We typically do take recommendations after each presentation, so if you'd like to recommend on this one, and then we can recommend on the next one after their presentation.
Okay, and the other, I said 2 points. If for some reason the 30 cents that was just approved is adequate pay for all of the programs, and there needed to be a little bit of trimming to fit the programs, I think somehow everybody should be in the same soup, but I'll just throw that out as something we should consider. At any rate, would the committee have a motion on this program to approve or disapprove?
Mr. Chair, this is Steve Bales. I'd like to move full funding for the Arizona Project WET.
Okay, there's a motion to approve full funding for Arizona Project WET. Is there a second?
This is Roy. I second the motion.
To recommend full funding for Arizona Project WET. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's 3 yes votes, no votes, so it stands recommended by the committee to the director. With that, let's move to the East Maricopa Natural Resource Conservation District's Water Conservation Management Program. Is staff going to, or is this on the district?
Chris, go ahead, I'll allow you to.
Good morning, I'm Chris Fredman. I'm actually the operator of the Water Conservation Management Program, not Marnie Hunt. Sorry if I disappointed you. She's actually a clerk for the district that helps manage the program, its administrative aspects. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. A little bit about myself. For most of you, I don't believe I've met before. Been in this industry and associated with these programs actually 26 years now, starting down in the Pinal AMA. And through that experience, become an certified irrigation auditor. Also attended the San Luis Obispo irrigation short course evaluator. And also I've been a contractor, irrigation contractor here in the state. And I've had the privilege of actually farming for a couple of years as a farm manager. So I've got a breadth of experience that I think helps deliver our end goals to our cooperators and water users throughout the AMA. You can go to the next one, please. The WCMP, a little bit of history about it as we've been talking about the longevity of these programs. This program was originally established in this AMA in '91. It's gone through some growth, some changes. Even at one point, there were 2 programs up here in the AMA, one on the west side of town in the Buckeye Valley NRCD area, as well as the East Maricopa area. As of today, since 2013, we have 1 program that serves the entire AMA, and that is, like I said, managed through the East Maricopa NRCD. We can go to the next one, please. As part of our deliverables, like Natalie was talking about, we conduct a minimum of 40 standard irrigation system evaluations. That could be spread out among a number of growers or cooperators with the program throughout the year. I try to shoot for a minimum of 15 with as many new people to the program as possible. And then we also do 20 technical or BMP services. And those are requests for specific things like, can you just come out and give me a flow rate measurement type of thing? BMP services can range all the way from simple BMP questions all the way up to full enrollment applications. So we can find ourselves pretty busy, and I'm sure you know that in the coming years, as we transition into the next management plan, those BMP questions and services are going to keep us hopping. In addition to that, we also do some outreach and promotional activities, a minimum of 4, and those are a combination of things between newsletters, workshops, speaking engagements. We've done workshops out in Mr. Bale's area specifically, where we did a minimum tillage water management workshop, where we actually had all types of sponsors show up, not just the people that owned the property, but we had tractors donated, implements donated, some irrigation water running. It was quite a big to do, and it was very successful. And then here in the near future, we're looking at doing some going down to Gila Bend and talking to them about some IWM practices to help get them dialed in a little bit, and also next month going out to Parker actually. So our reputation is actually exceeding the AMA and kind of pulling me in all different directions, but I think it's a great opportunity to continue promoting our efforts that we're doing here in the AMA and help people achieve their goals the best we can. Also recently I was asked to chair a committee with the Arizona Association of Conservation Districts, and that was the Cropland and Water Resource Committee, where we were able to discuss a lot of current issues, including technologies and water availability and all the things that we're facing in agriculture right now. Going back to those standard irrigation system evaluations, later on in the slideshow, I'll actually have a sample of what one page of that report shows, the summary report shows, but when we're evaluating those systems, we're taking into consideration all the different components, even managerial decisions, when we're irrigating, how long we irrigate for, how big of our sets, how wide are our borders, all those things that can affect our efficiency, our application amounts, and then when it's plausible, we come up with ways to try to improve those efficiencies the best that we can. And then sometimes we do follow-ups and actually do full-blown evaluations again, and sometimes I just follow up with the growers and we discuss how those things are going, how those improvements are going, if they had an opportunity to implement them, and what they've seen. So on an annual basis, then at the end of the program year, we have the growers evaluate what kind of success they've had with the program or through the program, if any at all. Some cooperators will say they didn't save any water, but that the information was extremely valuable for them. But in the cases that they do save water, we've had specifically, we have had a grower state that he saved over 50% of his annual water usage just by helping him understand how much he was applying and help him with his irrigation schedule going from summer into fall in the winter season. So that's some of the big impact that we have across the board. That's not typical, but it's one of the great ones I like to talk about because it was pretty phenomenal that he had that much success. We can go ahead and go on to the next slide, please. So again, this slide just kind of talks about what that standard evaluation is, the managerial strategies that are also involved with the different components that we're evaluating of the system itself. The systems range from flood irrigation to subsurface drip to all the different types of sprinklers. So it hits just about anybody that's producing crops here within the AMA. You can go on to the next one, please. Again, the technical and ag BMP services, again, anything that can be technically related to irrigation, we provide that service to these growers, and it's either, can be things from flow rate measurement, irrigation scheduling assistance, the Ag BMP enrollment. It can be, you know, maybe somebody just wants to know, hey, I don't, you know, I feel like I'm having to come back and irrigate too often. Can you come out and just probe some fields for me and see how deep my water is going? Simple things like that, but that can actually have a huge impact on the operation. You can go ahead and go on to the next one. Thanks. Again, promotional activities. I talked a little bit about some of the speaking engagements, but some of the newsletters as well. I try to get at least 2 newsletters out a year, and those are typically geared towards some sort of an underlying educational component to entice not just past growers or cooperators, but also new ones. And we're building on that new list all the time through some of these networking activities, like with the Arizona Association of Conservation Districts, NRCS. We work really close with the NRCS and some of the other groups that are associated with those. So always building on that, but also the workshops and other public events like Earth Day. Anytime I can get to Earth Day, I go and present with the NRCDs. You can go ahead and go on to the next one, please. Just a couple quick statements from some growers. One I alluded to earlier, about that he literally saved half of his annual water use on his alfalfa crop as a result with working with the WCMP, and that was purely based on scheduling going into the off season. He was able to maintain crop quality and yield without, and still was able to save that amount of water. It was, like I said, pretty phenomenal. The other thing too was a couple of the other ones, uniformity on their sprinklers. This was a linear out in the Queen Creek area, and this gentleman had no idea how important that uniformity was across the spans of his sprinkler, and how one span being off a little bit versus the other ones can so drastically affect his crop growth and his efficiency. And anyway, that was another great one that he provided to us. And then also, even recently, Farm Bureau took some points in the last newsletter and used them in a speaking engagement that they had, and they just wanted to thank us for the points that we made in the last newsletter, and that they actually used it during a series on wise water usage in Arizona. Okay, we can go on to the next one. So some of the actual program benefits for the last reporting year, so this would be the end of last year, where the cooperators of the program actually estimated how many acreage they felt were positively impacted by the program. That was around 15,780 acres. They estimated that across that 15,000 acres, around 6,160 acre feet was saved. And for sustainability and reaching across all communities, that would equate to about 22,000 households, or over about 85,000 people, according to the USGS, the amount of water people use on a daily basis. Okay, we can go on. This is a sample of what a newsletter looks like. This was one from December of 21 that discussed specifically historical consumptive water use of wheat. And then, like I said, hopefully this would either answer some questions or initiate some questions for growers to reach out to me for further explanation, and maybe some field visits and things like that. Just kind of open the door. But we try to reach that educational component. Go ahead. This was an Ag BMP workshop where DWR was gracious enough to attend and help try to explain what was going on when we transitioned into the fourth. You can see the turnout there. It was pretty good turnout, and like I said, moving forward into the next year, I'm sure we're going to be holding quite a few of these. So you can go on to the next one. This was another workshop. NRCS asked us to come out and help educate their new interns that they had hired from all over the country that had no idea about surface irrigation or IWM at all. So We held a kind of a formal classroom type setting, kind of educated them on some principles of IWM. We were lucky enough to have some water running close by where they could actually see some of those practices in place, and help them bring that information and education with them in their careers. Go ahead. Don't laugh at that picture. I had to do a quick screen shot snap while it was playing live in order to get that to where I could put it into a slideshow. But this was actually just not that long ago with the Arizona Farm Bureau, where I was asked to come and speak with them during their Friday segment called Talk to a Farmer, water conservation. So again, I was able to reach more of a broad base than just our cooperators. There was quite a few people that were actually submitting questions and were very interested in the program and the efforts that we do here between DWR and the WCMP. And you can access that at any time. It's up there on their whatever that thing's Instagram account, whatever it is. Website. Oh, back one more. This is actually the front page of what the summary report looks like that is provided to a grower. And the reason I selected this first page to show you is because it has a lot of the information makes up the actual system itself. There's specific field information, how big is it, what's the slopes, both row fall, side fall, and if I'm using terminology that you don't understand, I apologize. You can ask me questions about it when we get done. Soils information, that's derived from actually being in the field, augering the soil, looking at it, looking for anything that might impede water availability to the crop, as well as the NRCS soil survey information that was done some years ago. The irrigation system information itself, whether it's a graded border system, it's a sprinkler system, or a drip system, how that system is then set up, how much water they're being delivered and applied to that area, how big is the area that's being irrigated at one time, how long they're irrigating for, and then a calculation of what they're actually applying, how much of that water that's being applied is running off in the form of captured tailwater, so how much is effectively being applied into that active root zone. Then we get our efficiency numbers, and then from there we can, through observations of the irrigation event, talking with the irrigators, talking with the managers, we can come up with some strategies to help improve their irrigation efficiencies. So you can go on. Thank you. So just to wrap up real quick, just wanted to show my appreciation to the GUAC, ADWR for all the years of support that I've had. It's a privilege to serve our community in this way, and also for the special accommodation that they made for me today, because I did not realize this was a Zoom meeting. And I was here anxiously awaiting at 9:10 to see all you in person, and was not able to do that, but thankfully they were able to accommodate me. So thank you for that. I appreciate it, and I appreciate looking towards the future and what we can continue to do, the impact that we can have with our community. So thank you very much for the support. I'll take any questions.
It's great to hear from you, and I'm glad you could be there here to present what the funding you're asking for in the whole disclosure.
Sir, we're not asking for any change at this point. Yeah, we're not asking for any change at this point. I believe the 2-year contract is right around $216,000. And we're not asking for any change at this point.
Great, excellent.
So just a continuation of
Any
that.
comments?
Yeah, I would like to, a couple here. I really
Sure.
appreciate what they're doing there, Chairman Frank, and your presentation on the different things you're looking at, like soil, because each farm, and I was in the golf industry, each property is always a different makeup. So infiltration of water into the soil, into the root system is so important. and looking at that. And then one other question I had is, do you have a certification program if they successfully complete a irrigation audit and or knowledge-based test on sprinklers or irrigation techniques? I was just curious.
We don't, sir, at this time. That's actually an interesting question because I've thought about that myself, and I don't know how we would go about doing that as the type of entity that we are. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't team up with some other entities that are offering that here locally. And it's something that's on my radar because, like I said, it's something that I've thought about for some time.
Do you get into different types of products like wetting agents and stuff like that? Or do they do that already in the farming practices?
Another good question. Yeah, there are wetting agents have been around for quite some time, and Mr. Bales can probably attest to this. For myself and the integrity of the program, I do not get into specific products. I will discuss with growers or cooperators about the benefits, the pros and cons of some of these things, as that product says it will be, but I don't necessarily get into specifics about it. I don't believe that's what we're here to do, sure. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, absolutely, because each product's different. I was just saying, some people do have some success with wetting agents and looking at any way possible to,
absolutely. But even with some, very basic tools that, say like tree orchards and stuff used to help them schedule their irrigations, there's different manufacturers who make similar products, and I just don't want us to be associated with trying to endorse a specific product, if that, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I just more or less introducing it to the different people that there are products out there that might help, might not. There's a lot of studies.
Absolutely.
On that, so. But you did a great job, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Steve, any comments?
Just piggybacking on with Roy, great presentation. Chris, appreciate you coming in. Sorry you had to make the drive. You can't sit at home like the rest of us. But
you know what, Mr. Bales, it was quite a shock coming down to downtown Phoenix. I have not been in here in quite some time, so it was good for me.
I agree with you. Downtown Phoenix is shocking these days. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the presentation. I think this is one of the programs we've funded over the years. It's clearly demonstrated the kind that can work with people that make the real decisions. So I think it's wonderful. Any staff comments? Hearing none, we have a motion to recommend funding.
I make a motion to recommend funding for this program.
Is there a second?
Yes, Bales seconds.
There's a motion and a second to provide funding for the program as discussed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That's a unanimous vote. With no notes. So item 6 is taken care of. Both programs are recommended for full funding. I noticed your posting provided for a meeting that would end at 12. Do we have time to do the next one? I've always had meetings that had open ends.
We are running a little bit long today. What I might recommend, Mr. Chair, is that perhaps we could hold the WMAP
DCP completed project presentations, agenda item number 7. Perhaps we could hold that for our next GUAC meeting, with apologies to Mr. Woodard and to Ms. Esser.
I think that's probably then, if they can make the next meeting, and I think that's the right thing to do. If there's the chair rules in favor of that suggestion, unless there's any opposition from the committee.
None.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
Next, agenda acres report. Natalie?
Yes. I'll try to make it quick for you all. I have 3 just quick updates for the council. The first one is just related to staffing. It hasn't been too long since we met with this council, but we do have some staffing updates. Michelle C. Benali, who's been with the AMA team for about 2 years, has taken on some additional responsibilities. She was previously responsible for our conveyances team, and she has now also taken on responsibility for ADWR's activities related to the Douglas AMA and Wallapai Valley INA. Joy Aravalo Vera, to my left here, is a brand new person on our team. She's our programs supervisor. So she reports to Michelle Z, and she is, Joy is responsible for our conveyances team and also for GUACs and WMAP, excuse me, WMAP and GUACs. Bailey, who you heard from at the last GUAC meeting, has left the department. She moved on to a new adventure in California. So we're happy for her, but we definitely miss her. So we are currently in the process of backfilling that GUAC coordinator position, and we'll provide an update to the council once that new person has started. I also, in the room here, have with me Ryan Melson. This is Ryan's first week, so we're throwing him right into things. We're really excited to have him on board. Ryan is our new conservation programs supervisor, so he's going to be responsible for the team implementing the agricultural, municipal, and industrial conservation programs in the active management areas. Quick other update related to staff. Our statewide planning manager, John Riggins, did also move on to a new adventure. He moved on to a position at WIFA, so you may still be hearing from him, but just in a different capacity at a different agency. And we are currently working on backfilling his position. Also in statewide planning, we're working on filling some supervisor positions on our supply and demand team. Colin Wogenstall started in one of those positions. He's our project supervisor for supply and demand, and we're really excited to have him on board and have some additional support for that team. Any questions about staffing before I move on to the other 2 topics that I have here?
No. Nope.
All right. I'll go ahead and move on to my other 2 topics. Again, I'll try to be quick. I know we're running long here. I mentioned our supply and demand team just now. So last year, ADWR got a new responsibility, a new requirement to conduct water supply and demand assessments of all 51 groundwater basins around the state at least once every 5 years. So by statute, our requirement is that we issue at least 6 reports each year, and the deadline for those reports is December 1st, with our first deadline coming up in a couple months here. So we will be issuing water supply and demand reports for 7 groundwater basins actually this year. Those basins in kind of west to central Arizona are McMullen, Butler, Tiger Wash, and the Harquahala INA. And then in southeastern Arizona, we have Wilcox, Douglas, and San Bernardino Valley. So we're really looking forward to getting those reports out there. The staff working on that have done a lot of work to contextualize and create projections around water supply and demand in those areas. So we're really looking forward to getting that information out into the world. We are currently in the process of selecting our basins for next year, and we hope to announce those within the next couple of months here as well. For the Governor's Water Policy Council, Governor Hobbs did create a Water Policy Council. Their last meeting was on September 6th, and that council has created 2 committees. Those 2 committees are Assured Water Supply and a Rural Groundwater Committee. The goal of those committees and that council is to have legislative or policy proposals to the governor's office by December. So they are working very quickly on a pretty aggressive schedule here to try to develop suggestions, develop some policy proposals related to those 2 areas. And that's all I have with all of that for now. I'm sure we'll have additional updates on all of those topics really at future GUAC meetings, but I'd be glad to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Natalie?
None for me.
None right now.
Hearing none. And there's a call to the council. This is an opportunity for members of the council to request future agenda items or to discuss anything of interest to the council or bring up a topic of interest. Is there anything the council wishes to bring forward?
Frank, I did have a question for Natalie after all. Those 2 governor-appointed committees, you just mentioned it, item 3, Natalie. What do I look on the DWR site to see who the appointees are?
Yes, a full list of the council members is available on our website. And the way they have the committees structured is that council members were allowed to choose one of the 2 committees that they would participate in. So each council member is on one of those 2 committees that I mentioned. And that information is also on the website.
Okay, could you say those 2 committees again, please?
The 2 committees are the Assured Water Supply Committee, and the other one is focused on rural groundwater.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else? Before we consider adjournment, let me make sure we have done all of the work we were supposed to have done. And on the recommendations on fees, do I remember that the director was looking for a recommendation on the administrative fee, or is that beyond our responsibility? I think I said at the time that since there were no requests or suggestions from the department, we didn't need to consider it. But now I'm asking, did we need to recommend that the 50-cent administrative fees stay the same?
What I heard from the motion was just increasing the WMAP portion and leaving the other line items the same.
That's did the maker of the motion agree? I certainly agree with that.
Yes, this is Bales. That's exactly the full intent of that motion. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
These days we got to dot the i's and cross the t's, or at least cross the i's and dot the t's. Unless there's an objection, I'm going to adjourn the motion. Is there any objection to adjourning? The meeting is hereby adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman Fairbanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Goodbye.
Okay.